we're going to be looking at their team first. Recently just getting second in the Lille Regional, utilizing a rain team, which we've seen quite a bit. It is worth noting it's not the exact same. We do have the Basque Legion running the Choice Band Swift Swim set instead of the Choice Scarf Adaptability set.
Yeah, but as we were joking earlier, I guess this is the last, since it is the last stream, this is the end of the rainy season for the stream. We'll just have to wait and see if it prevails this time against Thailand's team, which we'll see in a little bit, which I think has an interesting Pokemon the viewers will want to see in the form of that Earthworm right here, being rocked by Panyawut. So we'll see the double dragon in the form of the Garchomp, Dragonite, as well as that Ninetales, and to close it out with the double ghost of the Annihilate and the Goldengo. So, is there anything any thoughts that you have, Joe, on this kind of matchup? Considering that there's rain on one side, which we've seen the whole stream, and then on the other side we have the contention in that form of Ninetales.
Yeah, so it is worth noting this Ninetales is running Focus Sash, which means it will be able to fully invest itself into its offenses and speed. And I think Ninetales is also really good into rain teams because you can kind of ruin an Archaludon's Electro Shot, right? We saw in one of the first matches we took a look at, right? Ninetales and Golden Go as a combination is really strong into these rain teams because you can opt for a Nasty Plot. You can put your Golden Go in a strong position after you've taken away the weather from the Archaludon, so can't pressure with Electro Shot, and also in front of the Basque Legion now because you can cut away its speed and potentially just outspeed with your Golden Go, considering it's running Choice Band and not Choice Scarf, right? It is also worth noting that this Ninetales has access to Encore and Freeze Dry, so if you're able to catch the Archaludon with an Electro Shot as you're bringing the Ninetales, we saw that was a win condition for Tara Okada in the previous or in the first set that we watched, being able to Encore into Electro Shot. You could definitely do something like that again here, and also notably having access to Freeze Dry, giving you even more flexibility with this Terra Ice to really put pressure on the rain Pokemon. Also, too, you have to talk a little bit about this Earthworm, right? If you're able to get a Shed Tail into the Golden Go, and you have Ninetales available, right? That's a lot of steps that the rain player has to go through to break through this Golden Go.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Or, it's also possible to even just give that Shed Tail to the Dragonite, considering it does have multi-scale. And, the mechanics is that the substitute that's given to the Dragonite also will gain that multi-scale. So it's possible that the substitute can take 2 hits against the rain team that we have here, as we're ready to get right into it. So we'll just have to wait and see if that Earthworm will be able to set up that Shed Tail, as we did mention.
Yeah, so we are going to see the Garchomp and Dragonite come out here as a lead, a very consistent lead that you typically see from these teams, but we are going to see Incineroar and Basque Legion. I will say, probably from Victor's side, you are feeling very happy about this lead, right? You did get a double Intimidate down, pretty solid position, and now you have the a possibility of just switching in Pelipper and opting to go for that flip turn. Bring back in that Intimidate, right? A very, very safe play here, hard to punish, and you can break the multi-skill from the Dragonite.
Exactly, you took the words right out of my mouth, especially since also sure this Garchomp will be able to throw out damage against Victor right now, but it is hindered already outright from that Intimidate, so it's not going to be doing as much as it should. Alongside that Dragonite, since it does not have the inner focus, it is susceptible to being kited out with the Intimidates. As you did mention here, Victor is already just trying to set up the revolving Intimidates, but we see the Garchomp just going for the safe protect, probably predicting that flip turn to go onto it, which I don't think was the best play to make, since it's very obvious that you'd want to break the multi-scale on the Dragonite.
Yeah, not to mention, if you do choose to bring in Archaludon here, it could be really scary, especially if you're able to catch that skill shot originally intended for Basque Legion, right? If you get a lot of stamina boost on this Arch, it's very hard to remove. Dragonite's already at -1 as well, so you're kind of going to be in a really strong position here. We are going to see Archaludon gets locked in and goes on the field. Did Skill Shot go into this Archaludon? It did, so now you're going to be able to get a lot of stamina boost, basically saying every time it takes a hit, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's gonna be very, very tough to remove this Archaludon now.
And ironically, this is one of those rare moments where you hope your opponent hits the fifth one, right? So, if that's the case, it basically renders this Garchomp completely useless against the Arcaludon, unless, on the off chance it's able to throw out a critical hit, but that's so unlikely. And, at this point, if you're Victor, I don't think you even need to bring out the Incineroar again anymore, since the Arcaludon is completely safe. You'd only just want to be considering the well-being of your Pelipper. But right now, Panyawut's Pokemon completely hindered directly from the Intimidate and indirectly because of all those stamina boosts just given outright to that Arcaludon.
Yeah, it is worth noting too, you can potentially pick for Ninetales coming in with a Flash Cannon here or opt for a safer Dragon Pulse. We are going to see that the Incineroar switch was something considered by Victor, and it makes a lot of sense, right? You have two physical attackers in front of you, a bunch of stamina boosts, you're reducing the damage, you already have an advantage, and you kind of want to convert off of it, right? We are going to see the Incineroar come down here. The question is, did these two Pokemon opt to attack? Did they opt to switch? We are going to see Scale Shot just go straight into the Incineroar here. It should do a good chunk of damage. Obviously Dragonite still being able to hit for a little bit, but it is doing way less than it normally would, right? Also because of the double Intimidate. The question is, does Earthquake come out here, and how much damage is it going to do? Because if it gets a crit, it could knock out the Archaludon, or it definitely will knock out the Archaludon. It's Dragon Ball.
Yeah, definitely. But instead, we just see Panyawut throwing everything onto what was initially the Pelipper slot. Probably just trying to figure things out. You can't take out the Arcaludon anyway, so there must be something in the back, or there has to be something in the back for Panyawut that could address it. Like this Goldengo, which uses special attack. So I guess that's what Panyawut was trying to go for, and trying to get rid of at least one Pokemon at a time beside the Arcaludon. But unfortunately for them, because of the early double intimidates, the Dragonite and Garchomp were not able to successfully take down this Incineroar.
Yeah, it is worth noting that if you had gone for Earthquake here and gotten damage onto Archaludon and done more to Incineroar, right, this Goldengo probably would have been in an even better position to potentially go for a Nasty Plot, right? Not to mention, you could just switch to Ninetales here, right? So if you opt to go for a switch to Ninetales here, go for a Protect, we can kind of, or even go for a Nasty Plot, Terra Water, right? You can kind of put yourself in a decent position where this Goldengo is putting on pressure. We are going to see the Ninetales comes in here, catching Victor on the Electro Shot, and honestly, Incineroar is still going for damage into Goldengo makes sense, right? You kind of want to weaken it so it's not becoming too much of a problem later. But I'd say it's still, it's a game. It's for sure still a game.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, although there is a good advantage on the side of Victor, this Goldengo still can try and bring the game back, as it goes for a Nasty Plot right here. Probably just trying to set it up, considering that, it's not going to be able to take down that Arcaludon in one shot, because it is holding that Assault Vest. And at this point, you're just going to try and consider, I'm just trying to build up strength on this Goldengo in order to take down that Arcaludon in one go, because physical attacks are not going to cut it anymore. So beside this Ninetales, we'll just have to wait and see if it's enough with the double up, possibly with the Freeze Dry and the Shadow Ball. But yeah, we're just gonna have to see.
Yeah,
Victor's
Blizzard
able
coming
to
out here a
adjust
little
that.
bit stronger, which means that it might just be able to pick up. I feel like Archaludon still might be able to survive this, but opting to go for the Make It Rain instead. So just saying, I'd rather get damage on the board. If Pelipper comes in, I can break its sash and then immediately knock it out. But I don't know if this is the best possible situation. That being said, Dragonite is in a lot better of a position if you can get rid of this Archaludon, right? Dragonite being able to potentially deal with this Pelipper very easily with the Scale Shot, and being able to potentially deal with the Basilican as well. It is worth noting that if the Arch does go down here and you're able to get a Scale Shot off, this could be a very, very scary situation for Victor. So we'll have to see how that works out. I feel like here, you probably want to opt to bringing in the Basilican maybe, because then you can switch to Pelipper after. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just bringing out the Basilican is completely fine here, since you can easily adjust accordingly from there. But more or less, I think Panyawut was just probably tired of the intimidates from the Incineroar being thrown out. But at this point, I think knocking it out at this stage doesn't hold as much value as it would have been early on. But the damage has already been done. So we'll just have to wait and see on how much this Dragonite is able to dish out right back onto the Arcaludon. But the problem is it's already at +5 defense. So I think Ninetales is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting this turn for the side of Panyawut.
There is a bit of a mind game here as well, right? So there's really two strong options you have here from Victor, which is you just go for attack and you just go for I'd probably say Wave Crash into Dragonite and switch into Pelipper, but it can be called out. If you go for a Protect here and you opt to go for a Freeze Dry, right? Then you could potentially be putting the Basculegion in range of that Extreme Speed. If you opt to just go for Blizzard and Scale Shot here, though, and Basculegion gets a Wave Crash off, you would be put in a bad position. So it really is kind of a mind game here. Do you opt to go for that Blizzard and Scale Shot into the Arcaludon, or do you opt to go for the Protect and the Freeze Dry? I feel like the Protect and the Freeze Dry might be definitely the better option here, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree with you that the freeze dry is the better option since you already, if you're on the side of Panyawut, you probably should just accept that at least for this turn alone, you don't have control over the weather anymore since that Pelipper could just come in at any moment. As you see, the Terrestrialization onto the Basculegion probably just trying to fish for that one-hit knockout. Yeah.
Gets the knockout on the Dragonite. Wow.
Yeah,
that's
so
not great.
Yeah, not looking too great for Panyawut, and yeah, I mean that Basculegion is banded and supported by Drain, and it doesn't even get knocked out from the freeze dry. So yeah, looks like this Basculegion is just gonna close this game out. But I don't see a way for this Ninetales to be able to claw the game back anymore.
So it is interesting, worth noting here, that there is a safe way for Victor to lock this game to avoid any freezes at all. But if you opt to go for Wave Crash here and knock yourself out, you do put yourself at risk of getting frozen by Freeze Dry, right? So if you get frozen by Freeze Dry and then you're able to deal with the Archelon, that could be bad. You could also switch out Basculegion to Arch here and just opt to go for a Weather Ball. But yeah, we're just going to see the forfeit here. I was going to say, it could get scary, right? If you see the freeze come out on the Pelipper, as you knock yourself out, you could lose, right? So it would have been kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, considering it is the last game for the stream, it would have been a funny outcome had that happened. But, there was the concede probably on the side. I mean, Panya would probably just tell himself it's not worth it. They just want a mental reset and, reevaluate what they want to do for game 2 in order to try and, make that comeback. Because, every time you lose that game 1, the next thing on your mind is, you just need that safe next win just to drag it out to game 3.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a big thing too there, which is interesting because it's a bit different from the previous games we saw, that banned Basculegion really putting out strong damage, right? Obviously Terra Water banned Wave Crash a little bit stronger than that adaptability Terra Water, Wave Crash, and Rain. So being able to just clean knock out that Dragonite was a really big deal, right? Just getting rid of it immediately. And honestly, like, I would have even been surprised if Panyawut didn't even consider like the option, because it's something that, typically you're like, oh, okay, it's a Dragonite in front of a Basculegion, right? So like, what am I worried about? But it's just so strong when it's in Rain in the right positions with that Choice Band. And I think the Choice Band item looking a little bit stronger than the previous iterations of Rain we saw, just because of how much damage it was outputting.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting, before we get into game number 2, the Incineroar did a lot of work early in that first game. It was able to neuter both physical attackers in those dual dragons, and because of that, Victor was able to easily just take damage trades in his favor the entire time.
Absolutely. But now we do have our game 2 ready. We're going to see if there is an adjustment. I would probably like to see a difference in the approach from Panyawut, but we are going to see the Goldingo and Garchomp come out here against the Pelipper and the Basculegion. So Victor opting for one of the more aggressive approaches you can take with this team, immediately putting pressure on with that Rain, and leaving themselves open to a potential Ninetales switch in, which you have to be always a little bit careful about when you're using this team.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit dangerous for Panyawut right now, since the only way for him cannot succumb to just, a wave crash spam here is that Goldengo terrestrializing into water and the wave crash going onto it. But as things stand, outside of Protect, that Garchomp isn't gonna be able to take a wave crash from the Basque Legion right now, especially since it's under Rain. But that Ninetales could switch in at the right moment, and for all we know, it is able to withstand that. But we've seen the power of that banded Basque Legion, supported by terrestrialization. As we see here, it is just going for the straight up Terra Water, probably just trying to fish for that one-hit knockout.
It is worth noting there was no switch as well coming up from both Pokemon. We're just going to see a double protect come out here, but this could be really bad if you're giving a free turn to get damage. But calling the flip turn to go into the Garchomp, getting it wrong. Is this going to knock out? Oh my god, I was so close.
You're so gonna
see, yeah, you're gonna see the flip turn come out here, but we saw the Pelipper lock in the Tailwind here, which is not good if you're on Panyawut's side, right? Because basically off of that turn, Victor was just able to get so much free damage into that Goldengo. And on top of that, being able to get this free Tailwind up is really, really scary.
Yeah, and the benefit right now on the side of Victor is that you're gonna set up Tailwind, and because of that, you're able to reposition this second spot safely into this Incineroar, because number one, next turn you're gonna outspeed that Garchomp anyway, and look, it does benefit all the more from just eating that Shadow Ball. So it's not looking too good for the side of Panyawut right now, especially because of that Tailwind. And yeah, this Incineroar, I don't think you even need to go for the fake out anymore. You could just go for straight up offense, or just reposition with Parting Shot and switch back into the Basque Legion, just rinse and repeat.
The real question here is how do you really adjust, right, from this circumstance? So the thing is that because your Goldengo is so low on health, it's going to be pressured by Weather Balls regardless of whether there's snow or rain active. And you're kind of open to a Parting Shot, right? So we are going to see the Dragonite come in here, but realistically, not really going to prevent this Parting Shot and the reposition again, which then lets Basque Legion come back in again, put in more pressure. Incineroar gets a cycle, Intimidate again. Not really where you want to be, right? So definitely something that you have to be aware of. We're going to see the Parting Shot go into the Dragonite here. This is going to give you a free switch into pretty much whatever you want. I could even see the Archaludon coming in here, potentially being able to just immediately put pressure on the Goldengo, able to sit in front of the Dragonite really comfortably as well. Could also just have the Basque Legion come in and go for flip turns. There's just so many options here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the side of Victor, you completely have the reins to this match. The hyper offense was perfectly executed right from the get-go in being able to call the right target for that flip turn. And right now, that Dragonite, sure, it does have that scale shot which could take out the Basque Legion, but the Basque Legion will be moving before it and could easily pivot into that Archaludon. And as we saw in the game prior, that stamina just does get out of control, coupled with the Intimidate spam from the Incineroar. So, game's not looking too good for that Dragonite right now.
It is worth noting too that Victor opted to go for a Weather Ball into the Dragonite. So if Ninetales comes in here, you are able to get a quad super effective move into the Dragonite, but no switch here. Flip turn going into that Goldengo, getting rid of it. I don't think there was any Shadows ever surviving that in a million years. And you're just really able to get a free switch, right? I mean, you can bring in the Archaludon as last time, try and catch that Scale Shot, or you can just opt to, switch back into Incineroar, get another Intimidate. I think bringing in the Archaludon, though, makes a lot of sense here. If you catch the Scale Shot, you're in an insanely good position, and then you can switch back in your Incineroar when Garchomp comes on the field. And I don't know, this is looking really like an uphill battle, especially with the Tailwind, with the Archaludon activated, with the multi-scale broken, and with the Goldengo going down.
Yeah, it just, I mean, of course, the game is not over until we see the end game message, but it's just really looking such an uphill battle on the side of Panyawut. It's just getting steeper and steeper with every turn, and although sure, you may possibly stall out the Tailwind, but what's stopping Victor from just setting up another one, right? The moment you see the second Tailwind, you just it's basically GG at that point. But here we do see the Ninetales come in, but I feel like the damage has already been done. Ninetales would just have to carry the game too much at this point. You'd probably want to possibly fish for a major freeze on, say, like that Arcaladon.
Right, yeah. I mean, at this point, right, maybe spamming Blizzard is your best way to really get back into this game, right? It is worth noting as well, Dragonite, even though it's a little bit risky, could try and opt to switch to Garchomp here, maybe to cycle the board a little bit, and then maybe they can protect Ninetales to try and catch Flash Cannon. But if Victor opts to Dragon Pulse into that switch, it would not be very great here because you would be very pressured at that point. You would have way less health to work with. And again, Basket Legion, super healthy in the back. We already know how impactful it is in this matchup, really being able to sit there and kind of do whatever it wants. But we are going to see the Incineroar come back in here. Makes a lot of sense in front of this Ninetales, and we are going to actually see the Ninetales switch out here, going into the Garchomp. So being able to pressure Earthquake now. If you go for Protect here, you could put yourself in an okay position, but we are going to see Pulse go into the Dragonite.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. That early Tailwind, it just presses down onto the neck, onto that Dragonite, since and that Garchomp, of course, since it does allow the Arcaladon to be able to move first before all of them, and because of the early flip turns from the Basque Legion, it's able to take out that multi-scale, or even at the very worst, if the Pokemon is able to survive to begin with, it deals that necessary chip so that the follow-up Pokemon right after can take it out very easily with, coupled with that Tailwind to begin with.
Yeah, it's worth noting too that as long as Victor positions the Basque Legion properly, doesn't take any unnecessary risks, this should just be in a strong position to win the game here, right? If you're able to get this Ninetales down to Sash, you aren't really pressured by any Pokemon anyways. We are going to see the Thrash Realization here come out of the Garchomp, going for that Terra Steel, obviously wanting to avoid that Dragon Pulse, but the thing is I feel like it might be, as you mentioned, like too little too late, right? Like we are going to see Blizzard come out here. If you're able to get the freeze, it could be really impactful here. Is it going to come out? No, there's going to be a stamina boost instead. And we're going to see Dragon Claw go into this Pelipper, and not the best trade ever, because even though you are getting the damage on the Pelipper, now the Ninetales is down to its faster Basque Legion is very, very scary.
Yeah, that's very true, and especially right now, sure that Terra Steel is very good in trying to neuter or minimize the damage coming out of the Arcaladon from those splash cannons, but you have to remember this Arcaladons in general carry body press, so that just increases the damage from the very beginning. So right now, I think there's no other way to see it, but Arcaladon is definitely trying to search or fish for those freezes, but they just don't seem to be happening. Those 10% are not really the best odds to begin with.
I mean, you have to respect going for it, right? In a week like this.
Yeah, I mean, player outs, right?
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do, and I think it's worth noting that I think Panyawut was making the correct play there, right? You go for Blizzard, you hope you connect on Pelipper, connect on Arch, either crit or freeze with both of your combination of attacks into it would be great. But with this board state now, you're pretty much in a locked position with the Tailwind. So we are going to see the forfeit locked in here.